This week on Christian World News, a hunt for the Ark of the Covenant. Go deep beneath the walls of Jerusalem to explore the mystery of this legendary icon. Plus, a boat ride on the Sea of Galilee. Years of drought threaten to destroy where Jesus walked on water, but miraculous rain is breathing new life into the biblical lake. And tour the upper room through a new lens as state-of-the-art technology uncovers Jesus' last hours. Welcome to this special Inside Israel edition of Christian World News from Jerusalem. I'm Emily Jones. Tourism to the Holy Land is virtually non-existent right now due to the coronavirus pandemic. Since you can't come to Israel, we are bringing Israel to you. Our journey begins here in Jerusalem with a search for the Ark of the Covenant. Legends have placed the Ark in faraway places like Ethiopia or Ireland. But CBN's Chris Mitchell spoke with one researcher who believes the Ark might be a lot closer than people think.
Researcher and author Harry Moskoff took CBN News through the Western Wall tunnels, up to the ramparts of the Temple Mount, and into the chambers surrounding Judaism's holiest site. His book, The Ark Report, chronicles his two-decade quest to find the legendary icon.
So here we are approaching three arches.
He says one theory is that it was taken out of the temple and carried to Jericho 18 miles away.
It says in Jeremiah that some of the vessels of the temple were exited, sort of escaped as it were, through this area at the destruction of the first temple.
But Moskoff took us to the spot where he believes the Ark lies.
This particular section of the Western Wall is really fascinating actually, because this stone is 570 tons.
Moskoff believes a key clue lies behind this giant rock and says high-tech search tools give credence to his theory.
2 years ago, there were tests done by the University of Nebraska, sonar tests, etc., using electromagnetic waves. They actually found what's called a storage space across from here. So actually, there was a purpose for putting this giant stone, this massive slab here. One of the reasons, in my opinion, is to protect whatever it is on the other side. And according to my theory of the Ark actually was buried by King Josiah, I think it was 568 BC, in back of these boulders, these massive stones.
In fact, underneath the Temple Mount lie dozens of underground tunnels and chambers.
Back then, 150 years ago, Charles Warren went in, actually did a survey. Nothing's really been done for political purposes, obviously, unfortunately.
Since then,
no one's been allowed to even put a shovel, nothing.
Yeah.
But basically, they were the ones that surveyed the whole area, and they were the ones who picked out the tunnels, etc.
Yeah.
They couldn't find the Ark, but
maybe it wasn't time.
Warren, a British explorer, documented those tunnels at the request of Queen Victoria, just one of many throughout history looking for the Ark.
When people like the Crusaders and the Knights Templar, even the Palestine Exploration Fund, which was originally commissioned by Queen Victoria, came over the centuries to look for the Ark, what they were looking for was a golden box with the staves, but what they really should be looking for is a room. They could have been right up against the wall, and on the other side of the wall is the Ark.
Moskoff says the original Holy of Holies had another chamber directly below it.
Actually, in the blueprint itself of the first temple, a chamber should be built exactly the same, Holy of Holies, exactly the same level of holiness as the one right above it. It was set up right from the beginning to house the Ark, with a golden floor and everything.
That's how Solomon built it, constructed, so the Ark itself could go down.
Right, it could go down.
Do you feel like there's a time when the Ark itself, when the time is right, will be revealed?
I do. Timing is incredibly important, incredibly significant. Obviously, it's a groundbreaking, game-changing, biblical type of discovery. My personal opinion is that when it does happen, it won't be in a clandestine way, where we're sneaking through these tunnels, you know what I mean, and we're bringing it out under cover of darkness. It'll be a great occasion, and it'll help bring the Messiah. It'll be something that all nations will really rejoice in.
Moskoff credits Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark for the renewed interest.
There are some things that got right about the, the power of the Ark, etc., and its destructive forces shouldn't get in the wrong hands, and it knows where it is, so to speak. It suddenly became a thing. Oh, what is the Ark of the Covenant? What is that? Oh, yeah, it sort of put it into the face of the public, and maybe that was its best success. Yeah. I loved it personally, It's Hollywood.
What do you think is the main takeaway people need to know about the Ark of the Covenant?
It's a real thing, just like it did 2,700 years ago. It still exists today. It's got the broken tablets that Moses crashed down there at Mount Sinai, and the second tablets. It really does exist. We're really going to see it, hopefully, in our lifetime again. It is a catalyst for the Messiah to come.
Until it is revealed, the Ark of the Covenant built by Moses in the wilderness will continue to fascinate the world. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, the Western Wall Tunnels, Jerusalem.
The city of David holds one of the most important archaeological finds in recent months. Researchers uncovered the very path Jesus himself walked on as he and other Jews made their way to the temple in ancient Jerusalem. Here's Chris Mitchell once again.
They call it the biblical superhighway, the pilgrim's path that led to the Jewish temple in ancient times.
The places and events and the peoples that make Jerusalem, Jerusalem. For Christians, for Jews, it all happened here in the city of David. This is where the beating heart of Jerusalem is. We're talking about the Pool of Siloam. We're talking about Mount Moriah, the Temple Mount. We're talking about the city of David. The pilgrimage road links them all together.
For Jews in ancient days, their pilgrimage began here at the Pool of Siloam. It's a mikveh or ritual bath. It's the size of 2 Olympic swimming pools. They would purify themselves here before going up to the Temple Mount to worship God.
The historian Josephus says that 2,000 years ago, on the pilgrimage festivals, there would have been more than 2 million people going up on pilgrimage. That's a lot of people who need to bathe.
The pool is also where Jesus healed the blind man, as recounted in the book of John. Its location was hidden by a road until 15 years ago, when a sewage leak led to excavations, the discovery of the pool, and much more.
The archaeologists, when they find the Pool of Siloam, so they understand if that's the pool, and they know where the temple stood on the Temple Mount some 2,000 years ago. The same Temple Mount as today.
Zev Orenstein with the City of David Foundation says archaeologists wondered how the pilgrims traveled from the pool to the Temple Mount.
So the archaeologists widened the excavation, and we are standing on the very answer to that question. We are standing atop the ancient pilgrimage road.
These are the stones that Jesus would have walked on his way up to the temple. And now the significance of the excavation of the pilgrimage road is that for the first time in 2,000 years, visitors will be able to walk all the way from the Pool of Siloam up to the Western Wall.
The word in the Bible, the Hebrew words, is aliyah l'regel, or ole regel. Now what we understand that to mean is it's a spiritual ascent. You're going up to the temple, going to Jerusalem. It's a very holy place. But Chris, when you're in the place where the Bible happened, the words of the Bible come to life. Because as we're walking right now, and I'm sure you could feel it, we're walking uphill.
And it was more than that.
This would have been like Times Square. You would have had on both sides of the road, and keep in mind, the road is about 3, 4, 5 times wider than what we see over here. You would have had shops, stalls along both sides of the road. This is the center of Jerusalem from a spiritual perspective, from a communal perspective, also from a commerce perspective.
According to the Israel Antiquities Authority, the road took 10 years to build, from 20 to 30 AD, and was constructed by Pontius Pilate.
One of the major issues of Jerusalem is that it's a living city. All the layers, all the archaeological layers are built on top of one another, and the modern living quarters and everything is built on top of the archaeological layers.
Excavation manager Ari Levy says uncovering the road is a major engineering feat.
We have modern neighborhood just above our heads, and we don't want it to collapse. After each meter that we take out, each meter of soil, we enter an arch-like construction like this. This supports the entire weight of what we have above us.
Along the route, you can see many places where the road remains intact and others where it's destroyed given its violent history.
We know that the Romans, they destroyed Jerusalem. And if you would find everything perfectly intact, well, it wouldn't seem like much of a destruction.
Among the discovered treasures are small coins minted during the Great Jewish Revolt before the Romans destroyed the temple and Jerusalem in 70 AD. Scholars often wonder why the Jews made worthless coins instead of weapons. Orenstein has the answer.
Jews of Jerusalem understood that the Romans were likely going to destroy the city, but they also believed that one day in the future, their descendants would return and find these coins, and they would know what their ancestors lived and died for a free Jerusalem. And here we are nearly 2,000 years later, standing along the very same pilgrimage road here in the city of David, in Jerusalem, the capital of the Jewish state of Israel.
Half of the pilgrimage road will open soon to the public, and within a few years, all the way from the Pool of Siloam to the Western Wall. That will give visitors a first-hand experience of what it was like to worship God in the time of Jesus.
Coming up on Christian World News, for years the Sea of Galilee was shrinking because of severe drought. See how miraculous rain has transformed this biblical lake.
These are times of warfare. You go into the strong tower when you're under attack.
CBN presents The Name of God, the latest teaching by Gordon Robertson.
God has given you the right to carry his name. That is life-changing.
Discover the peace, healing, provision, and protection that can be found in the Lord's name. Plus,
You are going to see some tremendous real-life stories of people who have seen firsthand what trusting in the name of God can do.
The thought of losing Noah was one of the most terrifying things I've ever walked through.
I could hear my house being shredded, and I heard my wife screaming over the phone.
I knew that God didn't lie to me. I knew that God didn't forget about me.
This is God's promise. This is the way. This is the answer. Go into that strong tower.
get your DVD copy of The Name of God today. Call now or go to cbn.com.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30. As the world watches from the outside,
It's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline, Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Welcome back to this special program. Since tourists can't visit the Holy Land right now, we're giving you a virtual tour. When people come to Israel, they love to take a boat ride on the Sea of Galilee, where Jesus walked on water. For years, the lake has been dangerously low, but thanks to an unusually rainy winter, it's now nearly bursting at the seams. Take a look.
For the first time in 20 years, the Sea of Galilee is nearly full.
It's very good for all of us around the Sea of Galilee, for the agriculture, for the farmers, for the tourists, for everybody.
The rise in the Sea of Galilee in the past 2 years has been remarkable. After nearly 5 years of drought, it's risen nearly 18 feet in 2019 and 2020 and expected to rise even more after the snow melts on nearby Mount Hermon.
Every time I see a full lake, it's like I want to sing, I want to cry out of joy, and I keep amazed by the grace of God.
Israel has had more years of drought than rainy years.
During the 5 droughted years, we had a very severe problem with the Sea of Galilee, and we stopped almost completely pumping from the Sea of Galilee. We wanted really to recover the Sea of Galilee as much as possible.
The lake used to be one of 3 of Israel's main sources of drinking water. Then years of little rain, coupled with growing demand, prompted Israel to take other action.
Israel is closing the gap with desalination, with recycling water, with conservation, technologies, education, whatever we can.
Last summer, the shoreline looked like this. It had been dry so long, trees grew along the banks. Now they're underwater. Each year, about 1 million tourists visit this biblical lake, or Kinneret as it's called in Hebrew, but not this year.
Unfortunately, because of the virus, it's empty. And it's this time of the year we expect it to be filled with many tourists, with many Israelis.
Even Israelis weren't allowed to visit the shore until restrictions began to be lifted. In March, just before the travel ban, CBN News spoke with a tour guide and a visitor here.
It's the first time that I came back to the Sea of Galilee since it has risen so far, and I haven't seen it like this in years.
It's an amazing privilege to be where Jesus was and to go out, especially on a boat, and watch the sunset over a place that I've read in the scriptures so much about.
The lake is currently less than 5 inches from the red line full marker, but the rainy season is over until next October. And each summer the water level drops by 4 to 5 feet from evaporation. Israelis are already praying for another rainy winter next year and hoping that tourists return to enjoy it.
Our next stop is the northern shore of Galilee, where researchers think they've uncovered biblical Bethsaida, the hometown of the disciples Andrew and Philip. Julie Stahl has that story.
Archaeologists work in Israel to peel back layers to unravel mysteries of the past. That's what happened at this site, now believed to be biblical Bethsaida.
We are on the northern shore of the Kinneret Lake, Sea of Galilee, a site called in Arabic El Araj, or in Hebrew Beit Habek. This site was known since the end of the 19th century as an ancient site, and one of the 3 candidates to identify Bethsaida.
For years, archaeologists have searched for biblical Bethsaida, the home of Peter, Andrew, and Philip. There were several candidates, but ironically, this Roman bath could hold the key.
And a bathhouse is something that leads us to the understanding that we are within some kind of a city. And although the dig here is very small, it immediately hinted us that we are in a very good place to suggest that we discovered the city of Julias.
Kinneret College archaeologist Dr. Mordecai Aviam leads the excavations here.
Now, what is the city of Julias? We were talking about Bethsaida. Josephus Flavius, the Jewish historian in the 1st century, tells us that King Philip, the son of Herod the Great, who ruled from here to the Golan, towards Damascus, ruled this area, decided to upgrade the village of Bethsaida and to make it a polis by the name of Julias.
Scholars believe that it was near the fishing village of Bethsaida where Jesus fed the 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish. Aviam said it's clear that there's a Roman layer at the site.
Also, 2 coins were discovered. One of them is a silver coin of Emperor Nero from the year 65 to 66, 1st century.
According to Aviam, remains of what appears to have been a Byzantine church are also significant.
There is a document from a visitor from the end of the 7th century AD, a Christian pilgrim, who says that after he left Capernaum, he arrived to Bethsaida, and there is a church for the apostles Peter and Andrew. So for the Christians in the 6th, 7th, 8th century, it was still called Bethsaida. But if we will succeed in proving scientifically that this is the place of Julias, therefore Bethsaida, I think it can be developed into an interesting site for people who are interested in being near, close in the place where the apostles lived.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, the Galilee, Israel.
Coming up on Christian World News, state-of-the-art 3D technology is unraveling the history of one of the most sacred places in Jerusalem when we come back.
From Washington, D.C., uncompromising stories, interviews, and analysis from veteran journalists David Brody.
That could be the next step in this escalating fight.
Jenna Browder.
Robert Mueller chose his words carefully.
Ben Kennedy.
He's asking Christians to get the word out.
Bringing you the political news that matters.
Get out and tell the story of the progress that we're making in this country.
Watch Faith Nation. Weeknights at 6 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
The Name of God, a new teaching from Gordon Robertson.
The name of the Lord is a strong tower.
Gain important insights into the protection available to you in the name of God. Discover how God is our healer, our provider, and the one who gives us peace. Plus, see exciting true stories of God's providence in the lives of real people.
You get the answer to everything, and that answer will never leave you.
The Name of God, available now.
Welcome back to Christian World News. The next stop in our virtual tour is believed to be one of the most sacred places in the New Testament. Powerful technology is helping uncover the secrets of the upper room. Take a look.
The Bible tells us Jesus had a final Passover meal with his disciples before going to the cross. The Cenaculum on Mount Zion is the traditional site, but is this where it really happened? Christian pilgrims from all over the world come here to the upper room to remember the Last Supper of Jesus Christ. Now, Israeli archaeologists know more about this site than ever before.
The Last Supper room is one of the most holy places in Jerusalem. We couldn't conduct here clear and classical archaeological excavation.
So they turned to state-of-the-art technology to uncover the upper room's secrets.
Using laser measurement, laser scanning, and an advanced photography technique, we managed to create an accurate 3D model of the place. We even managed to penetrate inside the ancient stones.
For years, many wondered, when was the room built, and is it the real place?
Suddenly, we needed to decipher signs and symbols from the wall. Suddenly, we managed to date it, and this wonderful structure is dating to the Crusader period.
Archaeologist Amit Ra'em said they discovered two biblical symbols never before seen in the upper room.
On the keystone, you could see the Holy Lamb, the Agnus Dei.
On another keystone, there's a lion.
The lion actually is a symbol of King David. Now we know, according to the Bible, that Jesus is a descendant of the Davidic dynasty.
Underneath the 12th century Crusader church, there's evidence of a magnificent 4th century Byzantine church.
And maybe the Byzantine built their church on much earlier and ancient sacred site.
For many, visiting the upper room is a moving experience.
It's fantastic. It's like this place has the power of the presence, is like a different note on the scale of the song of God.
Being in Israel during this season and then being in places like the upper room just make a huge difference in my faith.
Ra'em says he's learned one thing as an archaeologist about traditions.
Hear this ancient tradition, explore them, because inside them is hidden some truth.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, the Upper Room, Jerusalem.
You can follow updates on news affecting the Holy Land. Just go to the website cbnnews.com.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Some trust in chariots. Some trust in horses. But we will trust in the name of the Lord our God. CBN presents the name of God. Jehovah Shalom.
The Lord is our peace.
Jehovah Yireh.
The Lord will provide.
Jehovah Shammah.
The Lord is there.
Jehovah Rapha.
The Lord who heals.
Jehovah Sidkenu.
The Lord our righteousness.
You'll be encouraged by Gordon Robertson's teaching on the name of God.
God has given you the right to carry his name.
Plus, you'll see exciting true stories of God's providence in the lives of real people.
I could hear my house being shredded when I heard my wife screaming.
I knew something was seriously wrong with him, and it was worse than we had thought.
Become a CBN partner and get your copy of the Name of God. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com.
Welcome back. One of the most important moments for Christian pilgrims in Israel is when they get baptized in the same waters believed to be where Jesus was baptized. Chris Mitchell gives us a look at this ancient and special place.
For Christians, being baptized in the Jordan River is a profound spiritual experience.
Because it's my dream, and Jesus was baptized here, and the river is blessed.
I feel like I birthed again because Jesus was baptized here.
The site is called Qasr El Yehud. Israel developed this site for Christian pilgrims, and now about 750,000 people visit here each year. While there's no proof this is the exact location of the baptism of Jesus, it remains a special place.
I read the Bible, I preach the Bible, and for us to be here and actually experience it firsthand, it sort of underscores and affirms what they hear week after week as we present God's word to the people.
This is the area where some people believe the prophet Elijah ascended into heaven in a fiery chariot, and where the children of Israel crossed over the River Jordan into the Promised Land. Tour guide Ben David Catriel gives two reasons why this might be the area Joshua brought the Israelites on their way to Jericho.
There are passages in the Jordan, places that are easier to pass. That never changes, that's topography. But except that, we have Jericho. There is no argument about the location of Jericho.
Actually, this is the first Aliyah that took place. This is a combination where the Bible or the stories of the Bible meet.
Retired General Uzi Dayan says the Jewish people returned here from Egypt more than 3,000 years ago. 3 millennia later, Jews are still returning to the land of Israel, where you can see biblical prophecies come to life.
This can happen only here. You can't do that in any other country in the world. And if you believe in the book, so Israel is the best place for that.
Come, make this part of your plans, because this will enrich your faith and deepen your devotion to Jesus, which is what it's all about.
For many, it's especially meaningful just before the celebration of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Chris Mitchell, Qasr El Yehud baptismal site, the Jordan River.
Thanks for joining us this week. We invite you to come and take your own personal tour of Israel when it's once again open to visitors. Until next week, goodbye and God bless you.